You know what? Let me write down the roll call names too. I forgot. So give me a second.
No problem. And it looks like we do have an attendee in here.
Might be Jerry.
Give me a second. Got Tracy, Bob, Nan, Adam.
Joe Laporte just joined.
Oh, good, good. Joe's here. He's the one I couldn't remember right away. Give me a second.
Stephanie just joined.
Stephanie. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm forgetting one person.
It looks like Jerry's there as well.
Jerry. So let's see. Nan, Bob, Tracy, Michelle, Jerry, Adam, Joe, Stephanie, and I'm not forgetting one person. Did I get Bob?
Kirsten.
I'm sorry? Kirsten's here? Okay. Okay, why don't whoever wants to chair it. Kirsten, are you going to do the honors again?
Actually, my father has fallen and has a serious brain injury, so I'm waiting to get in touch with his doctor. So I've been waiting all day. So as soon as he calls, I'm going to drop off.
Okay, Jerry's on the line, isn't he?
Jerry's here, but Jerry doesn't have the agenda in front of him.
Okay.
Any volunteers?
Yeah, volunteers.
Do it. This is Tracy.
I don't
Okay,
have the
thank you,
I don't have
Tracy.
the agenda either.
Okay, we'll ask Tracy to do it, and we'll why don't we call this thing to order 7:02? Tracy, you do the honors,
Okay,
please.
absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we're calling, you said that you're, okay, so you just called it to order at 7:02 p.m. Tony, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Nan Gutenkopf,
Here.
Bob Perry,
Here.
Tracy Smadilla,
Here?
Michelle Hughes,
Here.
Jerry Cabasco,
Hola.
hola, Adam Lewinsky. Commissioner Lewinsky, are you there?
Looks like he's muted.
Here, okay. Joe Laporte.
Joe Laporte's here.
Good, thank you, Joe. Stephanie Gansey
Here.
and Kirsten.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We are 9 for 9.
Woo. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 11th, 2020 meeting. May I have a motion?
I motion for approval of the 2020 meeting, May 11th.
Great, thank you. Is there discussion? May we have a second?
Nan will second.
Thank you. And can we please call the roll to approve the minutes of the May 11th meeting?
Sure. Commissioner Gutenkopf,
Here.
or this is for the minutes.
Oh, yes. Approval.
Okay, Commissioner Perry,
Yes.
Smadilla,
Yes?
Hughes,
Yes.
Tabasco,
See,
Lewinsky,
yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Gansey,
Yes.
and Erickson.
Yes.
Okay, makes it unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Tony, do we have any guests that have dialed into the meeting?
It appears as if we have
Yeah.
2 attendees.
Yeah, so one of those attendees is Commissioner Cabasco, and the other one is Sam Hughes, administration staff.
All right, so there are no raised hands as they do in Zoom.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda, number 5, the reopening of village businesses. Yay, to much fanfare.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Smadilla, and all commissioners, by the way. And I think having all 9 of you on this call tonight is a good opportunity for me, Scott and Joey, to thank you all for your dedication and your support and your assistance during this most difficult time. Seeing as this is our third Zoom meeting, and a lot of you have sent me information, things to post, information about banking and businesses in town, and sending photos, and just, I really feel like there's been a lot of support from the EDC during this difficult time. Our staff is really, this isn't on the agenda, but our staff's really been putting full dedication into this, and many days of efforts in trying to help as many businesses as we can to remain open during this pandemic. So it's a nice topic to be able to talk about tonight of the reopening village businesses. Of course, what we're talking about now is under the auspices of the phase 3 recovery plan through the state, as well as some of the own Bartlett specific things that we're doing. So the last 2 Zoom meetings, I spent a lot of time kind of going through a punch list of things that we've been doing, and I didn't want to just report that again for the 3rd year, a million bullet points, but I'm going to hit on this one that hits the highlights. And one of them is the email blasts that we continue sending out. We even sent one out today about a Cook County loan program that the county is promoting now. But usually if you follow our email blast, there's going to be something, whether it's from the health officer, the police department, Cook County, DuPage County. We haven't really had much from Kane. We've had things from the health department and the SBA, and just only Joey probably knows how many e-blasts have been sent out, but it's been a lot. So we continue those, and we are going to continue doing those. You see this nice picture of the We Are Open sign and cherry on top for those of you who can see this. We've ordered 50 of those signs, and I just handed out the last one of them. Of the 50 that we had, I was so glad to visit 120 Live on Friday. It was packed. It was doing, the outdoor, I should say, was pretty lively, and they got our last one. So we've distributed all of those. You recall, seems like a really long time ago, I think probably at the April meeting, we were talking about the new program, the Small Business Emergency Response Program, and we've had a decent response to it, mostly restaurants. When I typed this up last week, it was 20 applications totaling about 67,000. There's 2 more pending. A lot of times I have to work with people, and the information we need kind of trickles in. So I'm still waiting for some more information from some other applicants. So you will continue to see that number grow. When we hopefully meet in person in July, we'll have a bigger number than that. And I just wanted to mention that the recipients of these have really expressed their gratitude to the village for helping them cope and survive during this, what's basically the most difficult time any of them have encountered from a business perspective. So next slide, please, Mr. Dienberg. So, you know, the one that's most visible and that most people talk about and think about and patronize are these restaurants and bars. And during the phase 3, numerous businesses that include bars, restaurants, fitness studios, nail salons, retail stores have been allowed to open, provided that they observe certain regulations regarding sanitation, cleanliness, face coverings, and social distance. The best example of that, and I know just walking around the town the last few days, I've seen more than one commissioner at various establishments throughout the town. And you can see here that Still was one of the early adopters of this type of allowance to open for outdoor dining. I want everybody at some point to knock wood that we keep having this nice weather and so people can continue enjoying dining al fresco. And I really like it, seeing a lot of businesses that don't normally have outdoor dining using it right now. So also, it's not on this PowerPoint, but in your packet, you would have seen we had a village-specific set of regulations that we quickly put out and that we distributed to all the restaurants. Trust me, Joey emailed it out many times to our eating and drinking establishments. And not to take all the credit, our inspection staff and our health officer, they've been out there meeting with these businesses and assisting them. They don't just show up for inspections. The whole process started with a pre-inspection where they would meet with the business owner to go over with them their plan of attack, so to speak, where they could put the seating, how they should put it. I could go on, but there's a lot of outdoor dining going on at Bartlett. I suspect some of you will be doing that within the hour or so. So next slide, please. Throughout the pandemic, I also wanted to mention, like I said last month, that it was kind of surprising that there were still businesses that we work with that call us and are taking out building permits and scheduling inspections. 120 Live that I mentioned is a good example. They are open. They have the nicest looking outdoor beer garden that I've seen, probably outside of Las Vegas or Chicago. And they're attracting a lot of new customers right there on Bartlett Avenue. I urge you to try it. Of course, it's outdoors only for the time being. One Taco Dos Tequilas, they have the whole outdoor tent set up in the parking lot. And as Scott can attest to, as a frequent customer, that they're also doing very good business. You know, despite opening up in the middle of a pandemic with only outdoor seating and carry out, they're doing very well. One of the busiest restaurants in town. I didn't add it to this one, but there's also a new coffee house that just opened in the last week inside Banbury Fair. I think it's called Good Beans or Sweet Beans Coffee House. I've walked by there a few times, and there were a number of customers out there today enjoying coffee out on the Banbury Fair patio. It was really nice to see. The owner of that's a Bartlett resident. And then, again, a couple of meetings in a row, I was kind of alluding to working with a business that we couldn't quite announce who it is yet. And that restaurant I did mention last month is Culver's, and they're going through the village approval process. Scott and I and some other staff helped conceive of a sales tax rebate. They had, real quickly, they were contemplating sites in 3 different towns, up and down Route 59, and that would be Bartlett and our neighbor to the north and our neighbor to the south. And we really put our best foot forward in this case, kept on them, kept in frequent communications with them. Ultimately, we offered them a sales tax sharing agreement, which they agreed to. It hasn't gone for final vote, but they're going to plan commission this Thursday night for their special uses for outdoor dining and for their drive-through. So that's pretty exciting. That'll be located just south of the Goodwill store on the west side of Route 59. So I've been a big Culver's fan for many years, as has my wife and kids, and we're just very excited to be working with them. We hope that you all love patronizing that business. Also, one more thing about Culver's, they want, if they can get all their approvals by July, they want to start building right away. So by this Christmas, we could go over there. That's their plans, at least. Next slide, please. Personal care services. Now, I'm not going to read through every, I'll spare you reading through every rule and regulation, but I do want to mention that personal care, what's that? Personal care services were, I have to say, out of the businesses that I spoke with, they were struggling probably the most because the restaurants, even though they had less sales, they were still able to do carry out and delivery, whereas the nail salons, the hair salons, they basically totally shut down for more than 2 months. They've been reopened. People are going back. They have a set of rules, but I can assure you that I receive many, many calls and emails and texts from the personal care services in an effort to help them reopen. So we're extremely happy for them to be able to reopen, although they've had to change the way they do business in terms of how many people can be in there and all the sanitation regulations, but very happy that they can reopen. By the way, I'm talking fast. If anybody wants to stop me for a question, just go ahead. Okay, we can move on, Joey. Retail, there's our Banbury Fair right there. Again, they have rules about how many customers can be allowed, you know, at any given time. A lot of the businesses, I found this interesting, a lot of what I consider old line businesses in Bartlett, like the bike shop, like Banbury Fair, they have broadened their online presence. They've been forced to, but by the same token, a lot of them have very successfully adopted the new regulations. So they are reopening as well with the social distancing and the reduced capacity. I want to mention Bartlett. We say this over and over at the EDC, that Bartlett is mostly comprised of mom and pop type businesses. So the nationals, the ones that you see out on Route 59, the Walgreens, the AutoZones, the Dollar Trees, they've got this down to a science. They don't need the village to really tell them what to do. They're doing the same thing throughout the whole state. But these smaller businesses, we've assisted quite a bit throughout this pandemic, and we're happy to say that they're reopening as well. Next slide then, Joey. Health and fitness. Some of them just opened, like 220 Fitness in the Galleria and Orange Theory just opened. And I went by Orange Theory today and the door, it was dark, nobody was in there. They're only allowed right now to do one-on-one training. Some of them are doing some outdoor fitness classes of up to 10 participants. Some outdoor groups also are allowed as long as there's social distancing, including between groups. And this is another one of those businesses that, you know, suffered dramatically during the pandemic. And some of them are just getting their reopening plans now. They're really, what they're looking forward to is phase 4, which we'll hopefully be talking about next month. But phase 4 allows, instead of just groups for 10, like what we would be exceeding that tonight with our meeting, but phase 4 allows for groups of up to 50, which should allow some of these places to open up. Any questions yet?
No, this is Joe. I go to 220 Fitness, and they've got a real nice setup now where you can actually book your appointment online. And so that limits the number of people that can be in the workout center. So I go there, I enjoy it. It's a 20-minute workout. You hit about 16 different machines. I don't know, it's maybe a couple $100 for a one-year membership or $49 a month, something along those lines. But good people, and they were just really starting to hit their stride before the pandemic hit. But I like the ability to book the appointment online so that I know that I'll be guaranteed my machines, and I know that I have to be there. I can't, you know, it's kind of hard for me to back out of my workout. So nothing but good things to say about 220 Fitness.
Oh, thank you so much for adding that. The owners are good people, put a lot of effort into it. What they mostly, they're located right next to, for those of you who might not know it, they're located next to the Beef Shack on Army Trail Road, just east of Route 59 in a new shopping center. And they always just tell me how they're looking forward to the rest of the center filling to attract more people. My joke is that I'm more of a Beef Shack type of customer than a fitness customer, but you know, for some of these businesses was just the timing really wasn't good for them, but nobody really foresaw this, and they have to be nimble. That's something else. I could talk about it for an hour of how nimble a lot of these businesses have become. They've been forced to become nimble and be able to make changes kind of on the fly. But thanks for sharing that, Commissioner Laporte. 220 Fitness is a prime example of that. As you said, like the hair places, the nail salons, and the fitness places have to do online bookings now for time slots for the customers. So next slide, please, Joey.
Orange Theory hasn't, to my knowledge, opened at all, though, right?
I don't think they've opened. I happen to be out there doing a lot of business visits this afternoon, handing out some of the grant applications. And there was one person in Orange Theory, but it was an employee doing something. There were no customers in there, so I don't think they've reopened.
Videos, and I think they send like one employee in to do the workout.
Yeah, it looked like one very fit young employee who was ready to do lead a workout online. But you know, a lot of people are able to still do well with that at home, one way or the other. I digress, but my daughter's dance school is completely online, and she dances every Tuesday night in a group of girls online and following the leader on Zoom, and it seems to work okay. Not ideal by any means, but that's a good example of somebody who's had to adopt some changes on the fly.
Same with KMA Bartlett, the Keto Martial Arts Bartlett, right across in the streets of Bartlett. You know, she's been doing online classes every day, and it's been able to keep our son involved. He even earned his next belt during this time.
Well, that's a story to earn your belt through Zoom. Good for him. And also good for KMA of Bartlett, because that's another example of a local resident, really a supportive, I can't remember her name right now. Karen, right. Very, very supportive. And every time one of the students gets a belt or does something well, she posts it on their Facebook page. And it's just such a nice business in streets of Bartlett. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, the endorphin effect is open now too. And they too were actually adopting their class structure to doing live streaming, and then you could if you couldn't pick up the live stream, that you could pick up the class on YouTube. So again, kudos to all of these business owners that did that.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Smedilla. And your three comments about the businesses reminded me of something I wanted to bring up today. So as commissioners, besides doing these meetings and always lending us advice and reviewing different programs that we do, keep in mind that you are 9 emissaries of the village when you're out there visiting, whether it's KMA or Orange Theory or Endorphin Effect. And anytime, if any of them ever have questions or they don't know what the right thing to do is, or if they really just want to promote what they're doing, on the Village Discover Bartlett page on Facebook, always feel free to say, I'm with the Economic Development Commission, and give Tony a call or send it to me, and you can always send me something. We're always looking for content and something to share on that. So I just wanted to do another quick reminder that when you're out there, occasionally if somebody seems like they're unsure of something or they could use a boost, make sure you alert them to your connection with the village and that you can point them in the right direction. So this is a long slide about manufacturing, but again, I was going through the business park today, and you could see that a lot of the facilities looked, at least by the cars in the parking lot, looked like they were already pretty much ramped up through Brewster Creek Business Park and Blue Heron. A lot of the facilities again, they're required to provide, protective measures, face masks, constantly cleaning, social distancing. But a lot of the businesses in our business park in general fall into that essential business category, whether they're in the auto supply chain or the food supply chain or whatever the case may be. A lot of them are up and running close to full speed. And also I wanted to mention those two new buildings at Stearns and Munger are not in Brewster Creek Business Park, but they're very close to being finished. They're getting a lot of promotion throughout the industrial real estate market in Chicago. So, there is still a lot of development happening in the village. And, the village's economic strength really is in the industrial sector, warehouse, manufacturing, logistics, and all that. So that's something that continues, that development, including McKesson's new building, by the way, one of the biggest buildings in the village, 420,000 square feet, might be the biggest. And that's coming along. So I'm going to knock wood here at home that our industrial sector stays strong throughout the pandemic and continues to expand, because that's really the economic engine that really drives the village. Reopening other businesses. Now, look, there's other categories. I could go on and on about every category. Something that I found is that a lot of businesses don't really even fit neatly into a category. And that has happened a few times where somebody has called me and asked me point blank, what category am I in? And a lot of times we end up, we speak with our management team, including Scott Skricky, Paula Schumacher, Roberta Grill, and we determine what it most closely fits into. Really, a lot of the regulations are similar, whether it's an office or a nail salon. I mean, the regulations are pretty much the same in terms of the protective measures and the social distancing. So I just, in the interest of not reading 20 more categories, most of them fit into one, but there are some that don't. And for those that don't, a lot of them really fit generally just into the office category, which is how.
The gambling places.
I'm sorry, which place?
Like the gambling places.
Well, those are still not able to open yet in this phase because they're not really categorized as restaurants, and all of their services are basically rendered indoors. So those are some of them that, again, haven't really been open at all since about March 17th. And, the future of those, I guess, remains to be seen. We certainly hope that they're allowed to open in, during phase 4, that people can come in and resume utilizing those. Because as you know, our BETA program and now our Small Business Emergency Response Program they're both funded through those revenues. So just like those business owners are looking forward to the revenues, as is the state, the village certainly is as well. But those remain closed to the public for the time being.
Hey, Tony, this is Joey. I was just letting you know, I was kind of looking into a little bit of this today. It is on the agenda tomorrow. The Illinois Gaming Board is convening, and they're going to be discussing that tomorrow at their meeting.
Oh, thank you so much. So that is the very latest information straight from Mr. Dienberg, who helps us a lot tracking the revenues on a business-by-business basis. So there you have it. The state needs the revenues, the business owners need it, the communities do. So we're going to hope that those are open again by the next time we have an EDC meeting in July. Next.
This is Jerry. Tony.
Oh, Jerry, yeah, go ahead.
What's going on at Bannerman's? There's no outdoor activity going on there. Have you spoken with the owner?
You know what? I haven't. I've emailed back and forth, and they were one of the applicants for the small business emergency response program. But in terms of their outdoor options, you're correct. They haven't so far. I don't know. I know Scott is on the line. I don't know if you've heard otherwise, Scott.
There's it's being worked out between the business owner and the landlord. The village certainly is not in the way at this moment, and we hope that there can be outdoor seating. But it's a landlord-tenant discussion. But we'll be ready to inspect them when they let us know. We have let them know we're ready. So.
Okay. Do they have any options for outdoor seating?
Yes, but approval needs to be given by the landlord. So the landlord and the business owner are still having discussions. But when the business is ready, the village will be there the same day.
Okay. I'm just thinking that at the end of June, we're going to go into July, or probably go into what, phase governor, Pritzker, whatever it is, or...
That would be phase 4.
Is that going to be going indoors then? They won't have to worry about being outside?
I believe that's what's on the agenda, is to be able to open it up to indoor groups. I spoke with the village administrator, Schumacher, who was on a call today. And, you know, the village is never going to declare on such and such a date the state's going to move into phase 4. But if the numbers remain as they are, then it should move into that phase in late June to early July, is just what I was told this afternoon. So
if we go,
that would, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if we go into phase 4 and there's any kind of restrictions on the percentage of people that can be in, like let's say it's 25 or 50, does the village have any opinion on keeping the outdoor seating to help bump that number up more? So they can have, if they can have 50 inside and then they still have outdoor seating?
Yes, but there's a little caveat to that. I don't have the date right in front of me right now, but I believe that the outdoor seating allowance that the village made, the special allowance, I believe that goes through the end of September. So for those businesses that are allowed to open indoors, but also have that temporary outdoor seating, they'll be allowed to keep that. I believe it's through the end of September. So we're not gonna say you have to tear that down right away outdoors. But for those businesses that don't permanently have approval for outdoor seating, I mean, there hasn't been any discussion about extending that at this point. They still would have to apply to the village to get permanent outdoor seating. I don't know if I answered your question, but for the phase 4, for the phase 4, it says that it allows for gatherings of 50 people or fewer are allowed, with this limit subject to change based on the latest data and guidance. And then it gives a lot of the same information. It says bars and restaurants can open with capacity limits, and the Department of Public Health approves safety guidance. So that basically reads like they would be able to open for indoors.
How does that affect indoor and outdoor seating? Is that 50 total?
Well, the wording is gatherings of 50 people or fewer. I don't know if I can interpret that on the fly here, but I think that it's basically going to continue allowing for the outdoors. And then also, the way I would look at it is indoors up to 50.
The governor
unless somebody's heard otherwise.
The governor will typically make an announcement, and we'll get all sorts of phone calls and scramble to find information. And then about 3 or 4 days later, the actual guidelines will come in. So what we do is we call all the businesses or Joey puts together an email blast to reach out to our businesses and in particular restaurants in this case, and we'll let them know that the order has been changed, change is coming, but we don't have all the exact guidelines yet. And then when we do have the guidelines, we follow up with them.
Right. Thank you, Scott. And that's what we tell them, because we know they're all going to call as soon as they hear that. So we want to make sure that we give the very most accurate information. And as I mentioned earlier in the day, our health officer for the village, Bruce Schroer, is really the point person for a lot of those questions. And he's been working very closely with all the restaurants. Is there another slide, Joey? Oh, that was it.
Hey,
But
Tony.
if there's any, yes, go ahead.
So I guess it's kind of, it might be under new, but I was reading that the state passed something where drinks can be, like alcoholic beverages can be taken to go. Has there been any like guidance on that? I feel like I haven't read anything to know all the ins and outs with that.
We know what the Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
No, I think you're more aware of that than I am with those guidelines.
We know what the guidance is and what the guidelines are. We just have to figure out what further action needs to be taken on the village's standpoint and our liquor commissioner. We're actually, oddly enough, discussing that tomorrow morning in a meeting. So once we have some clarity in terms of what our responsibilities are, we will look toward rolling that out.
This is Jerry. I know Dos Tacos is on the front of on the window. It says beer to go. So
we actually
I don't know if they've been doing that or not. Well,
the day the governor said that alcohol could be sold to go, our village president was able to pass that given the emergency order. However, what Commissioner Gansey is talking about is cocktails to go. These would be mixed drinks in a sealed and labeled container that would most likely have to be in your trunk. And that's a little different than the restaurants now currently are able to sell a 6-pack or a bottle of wine, but these would be cocktails to go.
Okay, yeah, I know they're I think they're advertising margaritas to go too, so there must be sealed containers.
So
yeah, those margaritas are cocktail kits. They come in a sealed container.
Yeah, it's like the little tiny shooter that you can pour into the juice.
The airport bottles.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I think there's some places that were at the beginning were like, if you're willing to buy something, you can buy it. But I was just curious about that because I thought it was interesting and just something else that would add to like movement around town.
Yeah, it's something, as Scott said, the village president, as liquor commissioner, allowed kind of early on in the process as another step to help the restaurants and the eating and drinking establishments, as I call them, that were really the first ones to take the hit. So, yeah, that's something they've been able to do for probably a few months at this point. I think maybe that's all I have for reopening village businesses, but again, we're ready to answer any other questions you may have.
Well, I don't know if this is Jerry again. I don't know if this falls into the next agenda item, but I had somebody ask me recently about what's going on with the old steel building down the road.
The old what building?
The old steel building down over there.
Main Steel?
Yeah,
Main Steel.
Yeah, it seems like years ago we discussed that thing, gave it approval, and it seems like it's dragging along.
You know, I can't answer that any better than what you just said. it was years ago, and it's dragging along. We did a Class 6B for them at the village board to reduce their property taxes for this total rehab. Without sharing every particular number, the purchaser has probably spent 4 to 5 times as much rehabbing the building that he spent on purchasing it. And I drive in that way. I always tell people I drive in that way on Devon, and I drive home that way after work. And I've witnessed it. It seems like they've been rehabbing it one brick at a time. And it's been over 2 years. And I called them, oh boy, at this point it was already probably 6 months ago. And they said it would be ready in a couple of months. So I don't know if that has been delayed. From what I've witnessed in general, construction for projects really hasn't been delayed. So I'm not going to say that's been delayed due to the pandemic. It's just the slowest rehab project that really I've ever witnessed, to be honest. It looks beautiful. You wouldn't recognize it based on how the building used to look. But I don't know what to tell you besides I hope that it's done by the end of the year. It'll go onto our industrial inventory.
Our building director is in touch with them probably bi-weekly, and he keeps coming along. But to your point, it's certainly slower than we would wish.
Yeah.
Can you refresh me what the original intent that we approved for that building was? I know they're going to subdivide it and do what with it?
That was it. The building, you have to forgive me too, because I'm not looking right at it, but generally it's about 160,000, 150,000 square feet. And it's their intention to divide it up into 3 units, and not 3 equally sized units. Like one is like 40,000, one is like 60,000, because of the way the building is laid out, and some of it juts out, and they had to tear down part of it and then rebuild it. Their intention is simply to turn it into a speculative 3-unit building and to have tenants come in. And believe it or not, I've met with potential tenants, but the last potential tenant I met with was 7 or 8 months ago, and they wanted to go in the next 2 or 3 months. So they obviously didn't move forward over there, and that's what it was approved for: a total rehab, a Class 6B to cut the property taxes because it's in Cook County, and a speculative building. And eventually we'll have meetings where we talk about the tenants that come in there. I just don't know when when that'll actually be. Hopefully later this year. Well, it's industrial zoning. It's not commercial. It's like I-2. It's the original industrial zoning in the village. I think it's either I-1 or I-2 that gives the widest latitude of industrial uses. It can be manufacturing, it can be warehousing, they can do, some assembly there. I met with a paper product company that looked at it. It can be a wide range of industrial uses.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
Oh, this is Joe. I've got some positive feedback on 120 Live as it pertains to maybe age group or demographics. But traditionally, we've lost business here in Bartlett to bars and restaurants in St. Charles. And I'm happy to report, based on my own personal experience, that my 21-year-old daughter and her college-age friends prefer to go to 120 Live now because they don't have to Uber all the way out to St. Charles. And the second comment was St. Charles is really expensive. So I think just having the beer garden has helped us already.
And I'd like to chime in. Thanks for mentioning that, Joe. I am meeting with somebody tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact, to look at that Bartlett Tap building. And I am in continued discussions with more brewing. And when those places come to fruition, which they will, people from St. Charles will be Ubering to Bartlett.
Exactly.
I think that's the favorite thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah. It's Jerry again. That outdoor patio over at Pastamia is doing pretty darn good on the weekends.
Indeed, it is.
And that happy hour, too.
Yeah, I mean, going by there in the evening or on a Friday, you see people eating outside all over the village. It really, despite the difficult circumstances, it's really heartwarming as an economic development person and for you folks as commissioners to see that. You know, it always looks livelier when you see a bunch of people sitting outside than when everybody's indoors. So, yeah.
My son, my 6-year-old, he's like, do we get to go over to the party?
Sweet.
Well, yeah, some parties, maybe not that party.
I was like, no, I'm like, we'll go at lunch. I'm like, you don't get to go party yet.
Right. A little young yet.
This is Joe again. Once we get into the final stages, and this thing kind of wraps up after stage 5, do the restaurants like One Taco, Dos Tequilas, do they have to pull those outdoor seat? Is all the outside seating done then? I mean, obviously O'Hare's will have to pull theirs in, but you know, I'm speaking primarily what's in the parking lot.
Well, yes. I mean, what's in the parking lot that's part of the temporary allowance that the village made for this pandemic. And it's different on a case-by-case basis. Like, I mean, O'Hare's does always have outdoor seating, but obviously not in the middle of the driveway. And One Taco Dos Tequilas is allowed to have outdoor seating, but again, not in a gigantic tent in the middle of the parking lot. If you all recall, 6 or 8 months ago when we were talking about Mr. Rafidia purchasing and redeveloping Bartlett Plaza into Streets of Bartlett, one of the 7 special uses that the village board approved in order to attract him to do that was for him to be allowed to put outdoor seating anywhere in the center that he wants to. So One Taco Dos Tequilas can still have outdoor seating as long as it's, you know, it'll have to be on the sidewalk and there will have to be some barrier put in place. But,
in terms of the other lots, Joe, it really, like Tony said, it really depends upon where they're situated. And the reason why some of these places are able to sit in their parking lot because they have no occupancy on the inside of their building.
Yep. Makes sense.
So really, it's going to kind of depend on several factors like the landlord, conversations with the fire department, because we anticipate those parking lots and drive aisles being busy again once we can get this place open.
Well, I also had some positive feedback on that Studio 120 from friends of ours. Was there, I think, last week. And they had nothing to say but positive things, not only about the food, but also the people who own it were very friendly to them and says they can't wait to go back.
That's good news, and we were happy to bring them in front of you months ago when they described their vision for the space. And you all remember them telling us all about all the money and capital they were going to put into the project, and they've done it. They've done everything they told us they would and more. And actually all the paperwork for processing their beta grant is in my possession now, so they'll be getting that grant pretty soon. And we just are so happy for them, and we'll keep working with them over the years, you know, to have them thrive in our downtown.
This is Jerry again. I'll be happy to go over there tomorrow and check it out for the first time and let you know what I see.
Good, good. We hope everybody in town likes it and keeps patronizing it. We want them to be there for many years.
And well deserved with all the money that they put in to getting that place ready. And also the food was raved about by some of the friends that went there, especially the pizza.
Pizza's good. I've been there a couple of times. I have to admit, pizza was good, cheese curds were good, and the patty melt was good.
Great. Well, Scott,
there you go.
Scott assured me it would be very good pizza, so it's good to hear that that's the truth of it, that it is as good as advertised.
They had live music there Saturday and Sunday, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I didn't make it, but they were advertising on a chalkboard.
Well, just to echo something Scott said earlier, working with more brewing and potential users of the Bartlett tap, really, I think for quite a while, we're going to be talking about our downtown as a real lively district for restaurants, for eating and drinking establishments. So I think that's Scott who said people will be taking Uber from St. Charles to Bartlett.
If people have a hard time getting their head around all the concrete, one of my favorite hangouts is Gibson's in Oak Brook. And they've got an excellent outdoor patio area, and they spent a ton of money. And they built in berms with pine trees and a gigantic waterfall with a pond. I don't foresee that here in Bartlett unless somebody comes in with some big bucks. But I think with the proper landscaping, when you're sitting there in Oak Brook, you don't even know that the mall is on the other side. You don't know that the highway is right next to you. You don't know any of that stuff. You feel like you're in the middle of at the end of a golf course, the 19th hole type of thing. So that might be something, food for thought for future businesses, is if they can landscape the hardscape, might make it a little more homey.
We'll keep that in mind. With some of these older buildings and smaller lots, they're trying to just really maximize every square foot that they have. And but of course, Bartlett's well known for having lovely landscaping throughout. So that's something we're always going to encourage them to do.
Usually it's all about the money, isn't it, John? You're talking about Gibson's, multi-million-dollar eating establishments they have all over the place.
Yep.
Are there any other comments regarding new business?
No.
No. Tony, is there anything else on the agenda that you'd like to share with us?
There isn't tonight. Besides that, I hope we're talking about phase 4 next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
In person. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to staff and really navigating our local businesses through these really rocky straits. And again, always very, very encouraged to see new businesses opening up despite the hard times. So thank you to everybody that was a key part of one, keeping those businesses open, and then again, shepherding those new businesses as they opened again during very troubled time. So thanks again.
I like your comment about the rocky straits.
Yeah. Well, if you've ever sailed through rocky straits, it's pretty scary. But once you get through on the other side, it's pretty good. So
well, I'm getting so sick of hearing all the cliches on the radio now, advertisements nowadays about in these trying times, everybody's using all the same thing. Nobody's creative anymore. That was pretty good.
Oh, well, thanks, Jerry. All right. All right, with that, may we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Stephanie, second.
Great, thank you. All right, everyone in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
All right, very good. Well, thanks again, everybody. Great meeting, and yes, let's pray for good weather so that our establishments can reap the benefits of a continued and growing clientele.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Amen.
Here.
Thanks for
Very good.
thanks for chairing the meeting, Tracy.
No trouble at all. Thank you. And Kirsten, if you're still on the call, best wishes for your dad's health.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
So long.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony, as usual, good job.
Thank you, Bob. See you soon.